Hey Regan.
Hello. Hey, Kevin.
Sorry, I was freaking out. I was like like 5 minutes before the internet just starts like just like the light and just dips. And I'm like, no, I'm like running over to the neighbor's house trying to like get on the internet, man. I'm sorry. But
No,
anyway,
it's all good.
how are you? How was the end of your last year?
Really good. I feel really blessed. Everything, holidays were really smooth, lots of laughter and fun. So just really grateful, excited for this year.
Nice. All right. Any plans? Do you have any plans for this year?
Oh yeah. Um, just expanding and growing in, all areas of my life. Definitely want to I don't know. Some things I'm still early in the process that I don't want to share yet, but we'll get there when we get there. Creative projects.
Nice. Okay. Um, Spiritual stuff, I'm assuming, or just are you expanding into other areas?
Just, definitely always spiritual growth and expanding, my work, my community, what I offer. And I'm also a musician, so I'm finally taking some pretty huge steps on that front, starting to publish and share my music more. So that's really exciting. I feel like that's going to be a big year for that.
Nice. Very good, very good. Are you like starting to record some more tracks and stuff to share?
Hmm.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it's been kind of a block for me because like all the technology and the um, you know, gets really technical, and I'm not really a technical person. I'm more of a creative person, but I finally just committed to mastering the music software and just learning, and I've actually grown to really like it. It's been really fun. I just feel like there's so many more possibilities that open up when you do that. So we'll see where
Yeah, I
it
mean,
goes.
it's pretty crazy. Like nowadays you can just people like out of their bedrooms are making like hits. Like people are playing in the club and stuff. It's pretty wild.
And that's what I'm all about, it's like decentralizing that and like I want my music to be, I want it to sound professional, but I also want it to sound real. I want it to sound like real. I don't want it to be overproduced or anything. I want it to be kind of raw, from the heart. Because music is such a spiritual thing. It's such a powerful force.
Nice. We'll drop some links if you want when you once you ready to share and I'll pop them in the description here.
Oh yeah, I certainly will. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, so I wrote a couple things down here. Let me see. So let me pull up my notes here.
Yeah, of course. How
All
was
right.
end of year 2022?
Sorry.
How was the end of year 2022?
It was pretty good. It was like 2022 was like I've done more stuff this year than I've done in like the last like 3 years combined. So it was like super hectic, but like productive. So it felt like I was like already just trying to like live my life, like trying to like make some moves and then like a whole bunch of kind of like things kind of connected at once. So then like things kind of sped up. Like it was like it went from here to like here. So I had to kind of catch up, if that makes sense. So
Yeah.
like I basically like went I spent the whole year like accelerated, like at 100%, just blah 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 blah. Blah. And then end of the year, like my body just was like, yo, stop. Like like you need to relax. So I basically just like I just shut off my phone. I tried to shut off everything and I just tried to go like outside in the water and just sleep and hang out with my dog and stuff. So I feel refreshed now though. But yeah, it was like the whole year was like whoo. So the end of the year was just like, like just yeah.
That's
But it was
good
good. It was
though.
good. Yeah.
That's that's what the winter solstice is traditionally about is resting and slowing down, and it's that time of year to give yourself that time so you can thrive again in the as the light returns.
That's interesting actually, because I heard some people saying about like the new year is not the real new year, like some people. And then I also bought a farm recently, down in Costa Rica. And I guess that's kind of like partially where I'm kind of leading where with all the that's where my questions are at now, is that the way the seasons are is like right now is sort of the transition period in Costa Rica from like wet to dry. So like basically like the season that's busy is the wet season because that's when you want to plant some stuff because when it's too dry, if you plant some stuff then it'll just die, right? So you have to plant some the plants like as it starts raining so then like they have enough water and stuff. So then when the rain starts, that's like when the season starts and then you have to get busy with like the planting and agricultural side. So I guess kind of like it's sort of like the end of that season is like finally time to rest now. You know what I mean? Because it's like the end of the season, so it's like all the timing kind of works. I don't know. That I just kind of thought of that just now.
Yeah, exactly. It's very intuitive. I think about that a lot, honestly. I every year I notice more and more because I mean, I suppose it's a little different where I am up north because we have like different seasons, like a little probably more harsh, but it's like a sine wave, it's like you have like
Mm,
that the new year or and it's like a fractal throughout all of creation. You have the new year, the new moon, the moon cycles are like that too, where it's like a new beginning, time to plant, and then you have the summer, or that would be like the full moon, that's the peak manifestation, and then you have like going down into, you could say, autumn or fall, that's the time of harvest, that's the time of going into winter, which is the again, that's kind of like the death, that's the rest, that's the quiet, and you just,
mm.
that's just the eternal cycle.
It's a good point, actually. It's a good point. I guess sometimes we try and fight the seasons, or we like forget that we're like part of it too. Hmm.
That's I think that's part of why we suffer so much, because we're not connected to nature. Like
Yeah.
this year, I used to hate winter, and now it's like I really just have to embrace it. It's like this is the time of rest. This is the time of, it's like solitude. It's like so quiet, and like everything is basically sleeping and dormant. So it's like, so I would, I feel like the new year in January, it is a new year because there's everybody believes it. So it does create like a new cycle, that we follow right now with the way we follow time. But truthfully, I would say the new year, the beginning of the new cycle would be April 21st, which is the spring equinox.
Well, I guess they plan Christmas and stuff like after the solstice, right? The winter solstice. So I guess
Hmm.
that's kind of like it's the shortest day. So they do Christmas on that day or around that time because then after the holiday, it's sort of like the days get longer. So it's like something to look forward to, I guess. So I guess that's kind of like a mark for like a new, like a good point, I guess, if you're going to mark the new year.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah, it is. It's important too because often, again, like that darkest time, that coldest time, like, can be really, um, it can be depressing and hard and lonely, especially for our ancestors. So it's like that's why, it's so important, different traditions like all around the world during that time of year to, come together and, have gratitude, have gifts, have fun, try to cultivate that light in the dark, if you will.
Random question. Do you know anything about hunting?
I really don't. I don't know too much about that.
Well, this made me think like I always wondered this. Like in New York, I used to live in New York. Hunting season for deer, like the regular hunting season for like the open, there's different like special sections where like you can use a bow or whatever. But the actual hunting season for everybody, like the open regular with guns, is usually like end of November, December, like right, I guess basically like right when it starts to get cold, like winter. And I don't know. I always wondered why they did it that way. Like I guess in my mind, like the experience of hunting is a sort of like that's the last bit of meat you're gonna get. Like, you know what I mean? Like on the one hand, you get the deer gets a chance because it's like super cold, it's kind of gnarly. Like it's difficult for the hunter to like go out and get one. And then B, if you do get one, I guess it's kind of like, okay, we got some meat for the rest of the winter. But yeah, I don't know. I was just curious. I don't know if you had any insights on that. you know, just out of curiosity. I always wondered why they
Hmm.
did it that like that. It's like it's super like somber. Like when you're out there hunting, it's all cold and like if you were if it was like summer, for example, it'd be like a whole nother vibe. But like I don't know why they do it in the winter, but like you're out there, it's just like you can hear the wind, like I don't even know. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I imagine there is a reason for that. The first thing that comes to my mind might be I know a lot of animals um, have babies in the spring, so maybe it's because of that. And by the time you get to winter, they're probably grown.
Hmm. Are there any things that like in your world that go with the seasons?
Oh yeah, for sure. And as I get older and wiser, kind of like I was saying, I try to flow with the natural seasons that I'm living in more and more. So obviously, everything we're talking about, specifically North Hemisphere for the South Hemisphere, you just flip it. But yeah, I try to follow. I mean, I also follow the moon cycles, which is, that's an ancient thing. There's still many traditions and cultures that follow the moon because the moon affects not only the earth, but it also affects, our own systems. So I try to tune into like the natural energies. Like I was saying, like spring is the time of planting seeds, physically and mentally, that's a good time to, or maybe I'll start with the solstice because we just passed the solstice, which is, as I was saying before, it's that time of rest. And for me, I really tune into it. I can really feel it. Like you were saying, like in the winter, it's like, it's just quiet, especially in the north is specifically, but you can apply to this to wherever you are. But just kind of flowing with that, like learning to rest. I think we talked about that last time is because a lot of times in our world, it's like we don't really let ourselves rest. And if you
Yeah.
never let yourself rest, you're just going to get super fatigued. You have to, give yourself that time so that way when it is time, in the spring to start, it's like everything kind of is an analogy for like working the earth and growing a garden. It's kind of like that, but in your own life as well. If you notice, you can start to notice like, again, like that quiet in the winter and then going into the spring, how it's like it's all around us. It's just the natural energy. Everything is coming back to life. We start to feel more life and light within us. There's literally more light on the earth. We feel more inspired. That's the best time to, the solstice is the best time to like set intentions. And then the spring is when you really start getting to work, on them like you would if you were a garden, but it's kind of like it's the same kind of natural flow um, with the seasons. And then like in the summer, that's like you can just feel it, you can just feel everything is like thriving, like even our bodies, it's like everything is just like going so hard, everything is like popping off. It's like, and then the fall, it's the fall, it's everything starts to settle down. It's a beautiful time of harvest and gratitude and reflection. And so just really following those cycles. And again, even with the moon cycles, it's the same thing, but that happens, every month, kind of following like that energy of new beginnings and then rising up. The full moon, everything is really intense in the full moon. And then, the waning of the energy is a good time to let things go.
That's a super interesting point, actually. Like it seems so basic. It's like we have to go with the seasons, but we just forget. I don't know. Like we get like the next thing that this made me think of was like in coast like I grew up in the States in New York with four very marked seasons. Spring, summer, fall, winter. And in Costa Rica, it's weird because we're by the equator. So the temperature never gets under like 70 degrees where I'm at. So you're just in shorts the whole time. But the thing that changes is like wet season and dry season. And how it works here is that even though we're like in the on the equator and like slightly north, um, like for example, the thing with the thing that happens in when you have four seasons in the north is that you have a very long day and a very short day also. Like you have in the summer, like in New York, I remember the sun was set at like 10 p.m. And then in the winter it was set at like 4. But in Costa Rica, it's like a 40-minute difference. So like in the winter is set to uh like 5:30 and then the summer set's like 6:30. And then the thing is though that over here, like where it would normally be winter, like it's snowing and it's cold, everybody's hibernating in New York. Here is when the rainy season finally stops and then it gets all sunny and then it gets super dry and then everybody goes outside because the sun's out all day. So it's like the reverse. It's this weird. So like I've been on another side, like I have been traveling for like a very many years. Like I spent many years like for the last like 4 or 5 years, I haven't spent anywhere more than 6 months. Like I had to like pick my stuff up and go over like 4 years, 5 years. So my body has gone from like winter to another winter, or like it's gone from like summer straight into winter and then like flips, things got reversed. So like my body is just completely, it just feels like it's been completely like thrown out of whack. Like it almost feels like I've been in winter for like a year, like that happens sometimes. Like that happened one time where um I went to let me think how to go. I basically like skipped over some summers, so then when I came back, I had to like do winter like twice as much. It was weird. So I think now tying it all back together, now I'm just like over it. I'm like over it. This year was the first year that I've been somewhere for more than 6 months. And normally I wanted to go home for Christmas this year, but I was like, you know what? Like my body has been in the rainy season the last 6 months. I can't just go and do it again. I can't just go into winter. Like I have to just like you said, like I have to ride it out this time. I have to
Yeah.
ride it out. So it's crazy. Like in modern society, like what you're saying just seems so basic. But like for somebody like me, where I had to travel and I'm like running like this, like trying to do that is like I have to be like actually conscious of it. I have to like make a conscious choice. So yeah, that got me thinking about that.
That's really cool. It's cool you got to experience that though for yourself, and feel because it is basic, but it's like I feel like in our society we just miss like the basics like all the time, it's like but like to like our ancestors and like even like Aboriginal people or people that are connected to the land, it's like, they know this stuff. I feel like it's like so it's important to go back to this stuff and remember how it affects us. This is the world we're living in.
I'm like 30 years old. I'm 31. I turned 31 this year, and I feel like I'm like relearning how to live my life. Like I bought some land. I'm trying to grow some stuff. So trying to do that, you like actually have to be like you actually have to like look at what's happening like with the sun and the land and everything. And I'm so glad that I'm like doing this because it's like resetting my body. It's like resetting my whole like soul. So I don't think everybody should be a farmer. I'm not saying everybody should be a farmer here, but like I don't know, like farming is necessary to connect with nature. And yeah, I think just in general, connecting with nature is the move. Like you said, everything you're saying, I'm like 100% in agreement. Um, I guess to tie it into academic composition, now is like the time for it's like usually in between semesters. So the kids usually have, or the students, they have off generally about like 15th of December to like 15th of January. Do you have any tips for the students? Any things that they can maybe take use in their life in this in between semester time?
Yeah, really beautiful. Um, well, tying it in with where we are energetically, it is a really good time to set intentions, and just I like to you think about what I want to create in my life, what I truly want to create and without limits, like allow yourself to really what do you want to experience? This is your life, what kind of legacy do you want to leave behind for your family, for the world? because it's like your choices don't only affect you, it affects really affects the whole collective ultimately. So, this is a really, really good time to, I would say, get like a paper and pen and just think about what you want to create. What do you want to experience? For me, I think about in terms of, my own growth, improvement, diet, health, relationships, which make up such a big part of your life, and, career, your work, what you want to give the world, maybe creative projects, or, starting a farm, as you are, or, it's going to be unique to everyone, but thinking, long term, like what you want to do, it's a really good time. And then, maybe kind of coming into more of like a, what do you want to do this year, and set intentions for that. And
Actually, that made me
yeah.
think it's an interesting time because the kids have to like choose their classes. I think when I went to college, their withdrawal date was like the 25th of January. Um, so that was the date that you had to be like locked into your class and then you had to pay. But up until then, you kind of had a little room to like shuffle. You could like just go to the first week's class, see if you liked it, and then if you didn't like it, you still had like a week to like maybe like find another class, kind of like swap it around. So yeah, that's an interesting point. I guess maybe take some time to like think about your actual life goals and then maybe see if you can take some classes. If you could like rearrange your schedule in a way where you could realign with some of the things that you're interested in that you got inspired in over the break.
Yeah,
Cool,
exactly. That's beautiful timing. And anything
cool.
else too, like whatever habits, and just start. Sometimes you start with baby steps, start with what you can do, and just go from there.
Did you do any of that for this year?
Yeah, I do that every year. I actually do
Ah,
it very often. I'm always thinking about what I want to create. It's always kind of just like an like, not in a way, it's a balance. You can't be obsessed about it. You have to be present, but I'm always thinking about what I'm creating. Like you said, I feel like I was able to create more in the past year than I have, in a long time. So I feel like it has to do with that spirit and that attitude of, yeah, I don't know. I just think about it a lot. I just because setting intentions is so powerful. So it's like just the power of reflecting and thinking, I feel like that alone is so powerful. Just taking a moment to think about what you want to experience, and how you can go about tangibly making that happen.
okay.
And it is New Year, so it's perfect time to do that, not just, corny New Year's resolutions, but it's just a good opportunity to take stock in your life and see what you want to create.
Awesome. Okay. So on the list of topics that I have questions that I had for this week was I saw this TikTok and it was like I think it was some monk or something. He was talking about this concept of second death. I don't know if you've heard of that before. And he was
Hmm.
basically saying where in a person's life, sometimes they actually die twice. Like one time would be like the actual physical death, right? Which is the final. But then sometimes people have like another death where it's like I guess like a spiritual kind of death, or it's like a death of the ego, sometimes some people call it. It's kind of like there's different names, it's kind of like a mysterious thing, but there's this sort of concept where you kind of have like this death and rebirth, and then you're able to like the second half of your life, your physical life that you have left, you maybe have another chance to do something. Um, not everybody, but that's sort of the idea, the concept of like second death. Um, do you know anything about that? Have you heard of that concept? Have you know,
Hmm.
any thoughts?
Yeah. A lot of times, I guess what I call what you're talking about is dark night of the soul. It's a lot of times that people, um, it just depends, yeah, not everybody has it, but it's usually it happens when you have like, for whatever reason, whether it's something that's happening outside of you or whether it's just, happening within you, it's usually both. Um, had such heavy trials and tribulations, I guess you could say. A lot of times that's how it happens in a crisis, where it just kind of like breaks you. Like it's this weird thing that it seems kind of paradoxical because it's like it's weird. Like it kind of shatters your reality. It kind of shatters your beliefs. That's kind of the death aspect. And you can't sugarcoat it. Like it is painful. It's like, oh my God, a lot of times it's like, I don't know. It's weird because it's like everything, it's all so much that it kind of like breaks you. But at the same time, it breaks you open and it actually ultimately liberates you, if that makes sense. Because if you see it through, it's like, it's actually a huge blessing because um, a lot of times, like when you have a moment like that, it's a call to action of like, you're not living how you like the full potential that you could be living at, and it could be a major thing like that, which you could call like an ego death or dark night of the soul, where it's like basically your personality, who you think you are, is like shattered, and it's brutal, but it's like it's kind of necessary because that's how you actually awaken to who you really are as like an eternal soul. So it's very liberating. You get like all that programming um, shatters,
So you're
but you don't
saying,
always
just to
necessarily.
clarify, like some kind of
Mhm.
like event, some kind of traumatic experience that kind of like snaps you out of it. It forces you to like break out of that previous perspective you had. Is that accurate?
Yeah, it can. I mean, it can happen in multiple ways too. Like it can happen in that way. It could happen, for example, sometimes people drink like ayahuasca, medicinal psychoactive brews. People sometimes have experiences like that um, in meditation, but also, and this is why, it's so beautiful to, by your own will, start exploring yourself and start exploring your own spirituality. Because if you do that, then you might actually be able to have a rebirth experience without having to go through something so brutal. It's kind of like, they say like listen to the whispers of your body, or you could even say whispers of your soul. Like you start listening to, oh yeah, like I don't feel good about that, or maybe that's not right for me, but I'm still doing it. Maybe I should make changes in my life and do the right thing. But if you just keep ignoring that and ignoring that and ignoring that, a lot of times that's when uh, you know, something will just blow up in your face, and you have to, face it. And you can either take the road of truly facing it, and that would be like the ego death. That would be, going on that journey within yourself. Or, some people might try to go even deeper, I guess, like deeper into the matrix, deeper into like escapism, or like avoiding that reality because it's a lot, but it's like it's always worth it. It's always worth it. It's never as scary as it seems either. It's like, oh my God, I can't confront myself. But when you finally do it, it's like it's not saying it's easy, but it's always worth it, because so much growth, like that's when you activate your power through facing your tribulations.
Do you have any experiences like I'm for somebody listening, is there like an actual story, like either personal or that maybe one of your clients or just maybe somewhere that you read or whatever that that where they basically went through that? Like what was something that happened, like an actual account?
Hello?
Hello?
Okay, you're back. It cut out for a second.
Did you hear my
Can you say that
question
again?
or should I repeat it?
Can you repeat it, please?
Sure. I was basically just saying, do you have any like stories of a time that happened with somebody? Like
Mm-hmm.
either, you experienced it or some friend or somewhere like in a movie or something that was real. But
Yeah.
you know, just can you describe a time that somebody changed?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like I can only say I feel like one time it was really extreme, speaking from my experience from myself. I feel like we all have maybe a point that was the darkest, and I can, share that within my own life. But at the same time, like I often feel like I'm like dying and reborn like all the time. Like it's just again, it's kind of like that sine wave, that we were talking about with the seasons. It's like we have our own seasons, and it's like I feel that within myself sometimes. It's like old versions of me, or maybe old patterns or behaviors or things I used to do or people I used to hang out with. It's just all of a sudden it's like when you grow, it's like sometimes all that stuff like just doesn't resonate anymore, and it's like parts of you that kind of have to literally die and be reborn. But the biggest example for me, well, you know, I feel like I've had a few few events in my life like this, but um, like my first awakening, we talked about a little bit last time when I started kind of questioning, this reality and realizing a lot of the lies and corruption and gaslighting and manipulation. For me, that was kind of like a dying moment because I was a part of, being a part of all that. And then all of a sudden having this kind of like, it is kind of unexplainable. It's kind of like, it feels like a divine intervention because it's all of a sudden, it's like, it's just like, oh, like I can't live like that anymore. Like I can't go back to that. And again, it happens differently for everyone. And then there's another instance in my life where I was in a really like toxic relationship and I was like, just like so gaslighted and confused and it was just like yeah, it was really really painful. Like I was really really depressed, like I really really wanted to give up on life, like you know and so that's kind of like one of those dark nights of the soul moments where it's like I wanted to give up, but by grace, I was able to like pull myself up out of that, you know what I mean? And like be reborn. And because of that experience, that's why I am the way I am. Without these painful experiences that were so intense, that I absolutely hope I never have to do again. But I'm so thankful that they happened because they made me who I am. Like there's no way I would have like the wisdom and the knowledge I have now if not for those moments.
So I guess the question is, like, sometimes people go through stuff and then they just don't come out, right? It's just too much, right? So how did you like how was it how did what was the story where how did you make it like on the other side? Like how did you not just end up in a worse place, right? Like what was it, maybe you might have to go into more specifics. It's up to you, you want to change topics, but like, how do you what specifically happened? Like how
Mm-hmm.
did you specifically um because like you could just like sometimes people like leave a relationship, a toxic relationship, but then they just go back in another relationship, right? That's toxic. So what kind of like how were you reborn, I guess? How
Mm-hmm.
did you change, you know, after the
Mm-hmm.
experience?
Yeah, I can get more specific, but the first thing I want to say too, because it's so simple, it really is just to, like have it so simple, is like following, and I this is just what I want to call it right now, is following the living God within. It's like, and you can call it God, you can call it the Holy Spirit, your higher self, like your heart, like who you truly are, the higher power of love, consciousness within you. For me, that's always been my guiding light is to follow that no matter what. So it's like, even if it's hard or like, because I feel like that is so simple, it's like that will always guide you to where you need to go. And you really have to get close with that part of yourself and have a relationship with that part of yourself because that's the part of yourself that will never let you down or lead you astray. It's will in a way carry you. Um, people who get stuck in it, it's like they're getting kind of stuck in, it's almost like they're getting stuck in like the matrix, like they're kind of, a lot of times they don't have that strong connection within themselves, which you do have to cultivate and practice, but it's like it should be, in my opinion, your first priority over anything because everything is within you, like all of your power, like everything you need, like God is literally within you, so it's like you have to learn how to cultivate that because that's going to bless you throughout your whole entire life. That's the first thing. And that'll keep you from getting pulled into like these external things of like getting back into that relationship or getting back into those old patterns. But so that's really what, what happened to me. So when I was able to, get out of that situation, and I'm not trying to be vague, it's just it's such a long convoluted story that I don't even know where to go with it. But like, ultimately I remember it took me a long time. I mean, I was in it for, I mean, about a year. I guess that's not that long, but for me, that was a long time. And it just kind of like finally hit me like what was going on, that I was like being gaslighted and that I was basically living a lie. Like, I don't know, that part just, um, it just kind of hit me, I feel like at the right time. And I realized I realized early on in my life that you can't ignore your soul. Like if you ignore your soul, you're gonna get yourself into shit every single time. Like no matter how hard it is, you have to just honor and recognize what your soul is guiding you towards. Because literally, because I've just seen it, I've seen it with my parents. I've seen it so many times in my life where people just try to ride the fence and ignore reality, and it's just like smack down. That was a part of my childhood I saw my parents go through. So I'm just, for me, I really don't mess around with that when I realize like I'm doing something that's like not healthy.
No, that's an
Because
interesting point,
even if
actually.
it's
Yeah,
hard.
that made me actually. This whole question made me think of like the concept people say soulless, um, like they have no soul. And I guess like somebody who's soulless would be like what you're saying is somebody who does not have that inner voice, I guess, or they just stamp it out. Like that's that's like that would be like your soul trying to be like, hey, what's up? Like you should do this. But then
Yeah.
if somebody's like they just ignore it, then they're just like a vessel or like a body, I guess. I guess that's kind of like the concept of two deaths that made me think of. It was like yeah, like there could be a situation where you're just a soulless, empty shell of a person. So I get yeah, and then sometimes that happens. Like that could be like your first death. Like for example, like as a child, you have like this super nice, beautiful outlook on life, but then like over time, maybe people beat it out of you, so then you become like this robot. So then you become soulless. So then you need this like you need to almost to like that old personality has to like die, and then you need to be like you need like a new person has to come out of it, like a new soul. I don't know, like man, it sounds kind of crazy, but I guess you know what, like, am I making sense here?
Yeah, it's an ancient archetype. It's the phoenix, it's
Hmm.
the dying and being reborn from your own ashes. And it's intense and it's painful, but it's the most worthwhile thing you can do, honestly, because you really do emerge from your own ashes as long as you keep following that love like within you, like which you never could be separate from it unless you choose to ignore it, really,
Hmm.
once you know.
This actually that makes me think of when I went to college. Like I was studying, I didn't know what to study. Like I kind of just went into college. Parents were like, just go, you'll figure it out. I'm like, all right. So I was studying like music actually. I was studying like music production because I was really into like recording stuff. Like I wanted to like record people like in studios and stuff. But then there came a point when I like worked a job like over the summer and like worked in the studio, and I was just like, okay, this sounds cool, but like actually all day I'm just like in a dark room, like like just like I don't see the sun. I'm just recording music in like an isolated chamber. And so then I had like this, I was like, I can't do this. And then I just switched my major. So yeah, I don't know. Sometimes
Hmm.
I guess sometimes you gotta just analyze your life and make some choices if you feel like things aren't going in the right direction. Hmm.
Yeah, and I feel like that's kind of, that's such an important point because that's how you start to get in touch with like um people call it like your emotional guidance system. It's like living for what genuinely makes you feel happy and fulfilled, you know what I mean? And like more of that, less stuff that makes you feel like a robot and soulless and unfulfilled, like more stuff that puts you on fire, that's why we're here.
Yeah. Okay, this Zoom chat might end. So if it closes, I'll send you another link and we'll just do another,
Okay.
yeah, another round. All right, one more.
Sounds good.